All right, it's well with great joy I welcome Laurent Tippy I-Grade Alfred here.
Yes,
I
sir.
have a new TV fight. What's going on?
Everything blessed, Junior. We say.
Serious thing. It's been a long time coming, right?
For years we've been talking about this.
Yeah, yeah, and everything lined up. So
Give
we got
thanks
that
for having
TV.
I.
All right, cool, cool. We want to get right into it because for those who don't know, this man has it's like almost a Forrest Gump vibe, bro. This man been everywhere on earth and did everything, all right? So first we want to start is that everyone knows you as a Virgin Island person, right? Representing St. Croix.
St. Croix, VI.
But you were born in Haiti.
Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
How did that occur?
My father is from Haiti. My mother's from America. They were living in St. Croix, and my father wanted one of his sons born in Haiti, and I was that one.
So he just took you down there.
He took my mother there right before she gave birth, and we went right back to St. Croix a couple weeks later.
Right, cool.
So it's a reason, though. You know, it's a reason I came through that portal, and you already know Haiti's power and Haiti's bloodline. And there's something very special, and I feel proud to be born in Haiti.
All right, so you're in the VI, right? You're is it okay to say you're a world-renowned swimmer? I know you're on the humble vibe, right?
Well, no, I had the national record in the USVI for about 15 years. So in my country, I could say I'm renowned, but not world renowned.
What was your introduction to swimming?
I think I was swimming before I was walking, brother.
Yeah.
You know, my family always went to the beach, and my father taught me to swim early in life and began swimming competitively at the age of maybe 4 or 5 years old, super young, and went with it all the way through 2 years in college.
Did you play any other sports as a youth?
Yeah, I played soccer, played tennis, played volleyball, I surfed.
Full around athlete,
All
right?
kind of thing.
All right, so you represented Virgin Islands in the Olympics,
Yes.
1992. Right?
Yeah, man.
Can you just briefly tell us about that experience of the trials, the preparation for it?
Yeah. Well, I was preparing for it my whole competitive life as a swimmer. You know, as a swimmer, every year you have competitions regionally to try to, you know, get your ranking and your times up. And by the time I was 17, I was very close to the qualification for the Olympics for my country, the U.S. Virgin Islands, which even though we're a territory, technically, I consider us a nation. And under the Olympic Committee, we're a nation. So we have our own team. So to make the team, I had to beat the national record at the time. I had to be the best there ever was in my event. And I'm 17 years old. And I trained hard, bro. I went hard. I was like Rocky mode.
What was the training schedule like?
Twice a day. It was mornings and afternoons. I would swim before school for about an hour and a half. After school, about 3 hours. You know, no days off really. Maybe Sundays we have days off, but you know.
Were you doing weight training also?
We did weight training too. Everything you have to do. Swimming is the most full body sport there is. You're using almost every part of your body. And it requires a lot of flexibility and strength training outside the pool too, you know. And Tim Duncan was a swimmer in St. Croix on my team. Big up Timmy Duncan. We didn't even
You
talk
swam with
about
Tim
that.
Duncan?
Yeah, man, that was my partner.
All right, so you swam with Tim Duncan.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I always heard he
I
was
grew
a
up
big
with
swimmer.
him.
Yeah.
Timmy could have been world class. He would have been world renowned swimmer, but he chose the right sport.
So vibe. All right. So what was inner side you now, right? What was that experience like when you broke the record and it's like, bro, I'm going to the Olympics? What was that like?
Man, pure joy and real, you know, happiness to know that I had a mission that I worked so hard on. And this is something that I took with me to other areas of my life, whether it was law school or teaching, definitely in music. The delayed gratification thing, right? Because you put in work and work and work, and sometimes you don't see the results till months and years later. So that's a mental training that sport teaches you. So.
All right. And you make the Olympics, preparing for the Olympics now. How long was that period?
Well, after you make the Olympic team, it's only 2 months until the Olympic Games. So it's just really some hardcore preparation.
Was that training different from what you did prior?
No.
Same
With swimming, you kind of got to be careful with your body. You can't overtrain before a big meet. So by that time of the year, summertime, you're really primed. You've already put in months of the hard training. And now it's time to make sure your body's in prime condition and your mind is ready to race. So
Right. So
You're bringing it forward to me, man. Give thanks. I haven't thought about this in years.
you go to the Olympics, right? And for
Yeah.
those unaware, it's 1992.
Yeah.
Dream Team is there.
Barcelona.
This is like a
Hey.
big thing going on.
That's right.
I would argue that's one of the biggest hype Olympics I've remembered in the longest time.
The opening ceremonies, I never forget it, bro. Because of course that was the iconic bow and arrow with the flame. The man had the flame on his arrow, shot it over the people. If he had missed, some people would have dead on fire, but he made it right over the cauldron. And yeah, I got to see the Dream Team walk by, you know, Magic, Larry.
What was the camp like, the Olympics camp?
The camp was amazing. You know, you stay with different countries. We were in a, you know, in a building with Iraqi wrestlers and, you know, Jamaicans and all kind of countries just interacting. And, you know, you see huge people and tiny people. The gymnasts next to some of the basketball players is the most amazing thing you'll see. And just a real great mix of minds and energies, you know?
Do you remember any conversations you had with specific people from other places that really like
no,
stay with you?
I can't recall specifics. I do know the Barcelona people who took care of us were real gracious, real good people, and they were happy to have us there. But I can't recall. I was 17, bro. I was 17 years old, and it was fun, man. We just had fun, and after the games, we had a lot of fun too.
How many events did you do?
Did 4 events.
You did 4 events?
Yeah.
I take it that the nerves, when did the nerves kick out? When did the nerves mellow off?
Oh, when it was done. Because it's when you go into that stadium, it's nerve-wracking when you see all kind of people around, but it's adrenaline. It's a rush, you know?
And did the level of the performance of others kind of, because you're 17 and your body's still young, were you impressed with the level of performance of the other players?
What? Of course. Of the swimmers, yeah, man. Yeah, there's world-class swimmers, of course. In my event, I'm a sprinter. I'm a 50-meter free was my specialist. I also did 100 and 200, but the shortest event where you just one length of the pool, you don't even breathe. You're just trying to get as high in the water and kick as hard as you can and go as fast as you can. So not a whole lot of strategy, but yeah, man, to see the top, you know, the world record holder, of course, I got to see him race, and it's another level. You know, there's levels and everything. So I always remind my children, you know, you can't be afraid of levels and hierarchy, because as good as you think you are, there's levels above you, levels below you.
You come back from the Olympics, right? Then you go overseas to school, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why did you make the decision to go to Harvard? First of all, hold on, this man has so much things going on. So you find out you make the Olympics, right? That's like a great achievement.
Yeah.
When did you find out you got accepted to Harvard?
Before that, I was already accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your social life like? You was just like some king or something walking around like?
Yeah, man. It's funny because I was, you know, school came easy for me. I worked hard, but it also did come easy for me. So I was like the guy in school who got the best grades, you know. That's why I-Grade even works for me as a label, because I got the grades. You know, I used to get grades where people knew I'm always going to be at the top of the class. But I was also an athlete. You know, I was also captain of the soccer team and Olympic swimmer. So I wasn't quite a nerd, but I had the mind of a nerd. You know what I mean? So
was there a lot of pressure in your house to perform academically from your father?
Yes and no. I mean, there was expectation more than pressure, you know? He expected
to maintain.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. He expected excellence. He expected straight A's, and it got to a point where they didn't have to pressure me. You know.
Still, you deal with it.
Yeah, kind of. I figure out systems well, I guess. You know, I figure out what teachers are looking for, and I'm able to execute. And I always remind my children, going through school, yes, you absorb the knowledge. That's what's most important. But you have to learn how to play their game of, you know, getting the results you want for your grades. You know what I mean?
All right, then. So, you're living in St. Croix your whole life now. You go to Harvard. What was that like socially being on that campus? Because when you're out there,
very different.
And it's a different social demographic up there.
Completely. Right? You know Boston already. Boston, Massachusetts.
So what was that for you socially?
Well, I think the biggest shock for me was racially, you know. And Boston is a very racially divided city. And almost every college campus, at least in the early 90s, is also very racially divided. I don't know about today, but at Harvard, you had black parties and you had white parties.
Straight.
You know what I mean? You didn't have no mix. And I wasn't too used to that. You know, I went to a private school in St. Croix where we had this almost perfect balance between black, white, and other, Puerto Rican and Arab. And, you know, all over St. Croix, people of my complexion is natural. There's so much mix, there's so much different cross-culture variation, but you get up to that environment where it's very bipolar in terms of the racial, social environment. It was strange.
Also, too, man, as an athlete, now you went to the Olympics, but you weren't. Were you doing intramural sports at Harvard to still get the sports vibe, or you kind of cooled off on the sports?
No, I was on the swimming team.
Oh, you on the swim?
Yeah, man. How you mean, like?
That's what I was trying. You were on the swimming team.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
I was a varsity swimmer for 2 years at Harvard.
What conference were they in at that time?
It's Division One.
No, what conference?
Ivy League. Ivy League
so
has
it's
its
like
own, or the
Princeton?
Eastern Conference, they call it. Actually.
It was like Bucknell, Princeton, and that crew.
All the Ivies and then a few other schools.
Yeah. So
It's called the Eastern Conference.
So how was that experience coming on the team as the Olympian?
Man, there were a few other Olympians on the team. There was a British Olympian, another Virgin Islander from my team who was on the Harvard team. So I wasn't alone in that respect, but I was in the middle of the pack.
Sorry to cut you. So Harvard's like a swimming. They have a strong
They
swimming
have a very
program.
strong program.
All right, cool.
Yeah, top 20 in the country. So, yeah, I got there and I wasn't even making the travel team half the year. So it was a transition for me from being the top dog in St. Croix to going to then having to fight for my spot to make a travel team. So
what
levels.
What aspect of your swimming did you have to improve to get into the mix?
Speed, bro.
It was just the speed?
I mean, with my race, that's the aspect you have to improve is your speed, you know? And to get the speed, it's a whole lot of different things. Strength and technique.
I'm not familiar with swimming, so what technique?
Technique is huge. Strength, of course. Body type and body build is really important in the swimming and in the sprinting. If you see other sprinters have a certain body type, you know, so, yeah.
All right, cool then, man. All right, so you're at Harvard, right, for 4 years on the swim team.
Yeah.
Division I athlete. You graduate Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Did you come back home or you stayed up there?
No, I stayed. I was in New York City for 4 years as a middle school teacher in East Harlem at a small private school called the East Harlem School.
Why did you make the decision to go into teaching?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, brother. You know, I'd thought about going to law school from the time I was young. I wanted to be just like my father, just like my grandfather. So I always had that goal in mind. But as I finished college, I really didn't feel like I was ready to jump into another 3 years of grad school. So I got introduced to this school. My mother's a teacher. My grandmother's a teacher. So I have a lineage of teachers in my family too. So I decided to take that up. I was initially just going to do 1 or 2 years, but really enjoyed the experience and decided to stay.
Started making beats, right?
And that's when I decided to start doing music seriously. You know?
So that's when you first picked up an instrument?
Picked up the instrument my 3rd year of college.
Was it acoustic guitar? Was it piano?
Hand drums.
Hand drums.
Yeah.
All right.
Djembe.
You told me you started with the drums in college and you started making beats in New York. Were they hip hop beats or were they reggae? Mostly hip hop.
Mostly hip hop. Yeah, man. I was a hip hop head. Love hip hop.
Who were some of the people you were listening to?
Oh, in them times, Nas, Dead Prez, who I got to work with actually. Let me see. Diggable Planets. I remember being into them. You know, my older brother was an influence on me. So basically whatever he was listening to, whatever he brought back from college when he went away, you know, which is a lot of De La Soul, Native Tongue, you know. So hip hop was definitely in my blood as far as my core interest. I'm a youth of that time period, you know, when hip hop was in that golden age. So my early productions always had that in it as well. You know, reggae music is my love, and I started playing reggae as I'm playing hip hop. It's like they emerged together in my musical journey. It wasn't like one before the other. So.
And what were some of the reggae sounds you were listening to during that time? That's like all Till Shiloh in that era, it seemed like. Right?
Sizzla, you know, Sizzla. In them times, Sizzla running the road.
Real quick, how big was Sizzla in St. Croix at that time?
Sizzla turned so much youth Rasta in St. Croix throughout the world, you know, but Sizzla was definitely big in the VI. But I was in Brooklyn at the time. I was living in New York City, and after law school, after college, I was in Brooklyn for a couple years, and
That's Firebrand time. Anthony B.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Used to go down to
Lucian,
Ethiopian Taste and get a cassette of the latest mix, and Sizzla, Tony B, all them, man. So big influence on my spirit as a Rasta man. I wouldn't say so much musically, although I love the Exterminator sound. To me, that's one of the heaviest, cleanest sound in reggae music. But more message and spirit and energy as a young Ras, you know? Sizzla give you so much charge when you listen to his songs. So that was a big influence on me. But musically, it's more like Twinkle Brothers, Josh Shaka, Aswad, a lot of UK reggae, roots music, Bob Marley, of course. You know, these are the kind of deep root sounds. Yeah, man. I mean, one of the greatest. Yeah.
So, all right. So you're growing into music, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you get exposed to Rastafari?
In college.
Yeah.
In college, yeah. I would say in college on a deeper level. Of course, Rastafari is a part of St. Croix community from decades, even from the 1930s, I've been told by elders. You know, same time as Jamaica, you have elders living a natural lifestyle in the hills in St. Croix, growing natties. So St. Croix has a deep tradition, but my personal exposure became deeper when a brethren of mine in college, shout out to Eric Williams, he went to Jamaica for a semester and came back with so much inspiration and knowledge about Rastafari that he shared with I. And at the time, I would say, very open and receptive to a worldview to fit the kind of uncomfortability I feel in this world coming to America in Boston, not wanting to do the path that is set before me, which is make as much money as you can for somebody else to be richer, you know? That's the pathway. If you come out of these elite schools, you can get a $100,000 a year job as a 21-year-old man making money. And you can see a pathway to get rich and retire early. And I looked at that life and I said, no, sir, that sounds miserable. And what am I doing if all that I'm doing here for is to make somebody else richer? No, man, there's so much greater things and more important things in the world than that. So I decided, let me just figure out what it is I want to do. And starting with teaching helped me because it's service, but it's also you explore yourself when you have to get in front of people and speak every day, and children, and you have to explain concepts. It really helps you with yourself as well, you know?
And that's a blessing you came to that revelation so early. Well, most people never come to that revelation. And when they do, it's not too late, but they come to it at a later stage in life.
Yeah.
And miss out on decades. So
yeah, man.
we give thanks that you saw that so early and
Yeah.
actually acted on it, and then it get stunted by fear.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a good thing. All right. So moving forward now, right? You're citing up the faith. I take you getting more militant.
Yeah,
right?
man.
What were you reading at the time?
Well, the autobiography of His Majesty, The Wise Mind of His Imperial Majesty, a lot of speeches of His Imperial Majesty to understand the message, because what I realized kind of early is that Haile Selassie, his words were the best self-help word sound you can get in life, better than any of these new age people who try to help you think better. His speeches contained formulas, and there were speeches he gave to students, to the military, to his country, but they cover so many topics and so clear and so articulate and so to the point. So to me, that's always the foundation and starting point for the spiritual, intellectual tradition of Rastafari are his speeches. You know, Vaughn has a song, His Speeches, His Speeches. But beyond that, the Bible, various nonfiction books. You know, I like nonfiction more than fiction. I feel like there's not enough time for too many stories right now. You know, when I started working with Vaughn, he introduced me to a lot of different books I'd never heard of.
You're making beats in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, you built the rhythm. You went home for the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and you linked up with your brethren Danny Dread.
Donnie Dread.
Danny Dread,
No,
right?
Donnie.
Donnie?
Donnie. D-O-N.
Donnie Dread, sorry.
Donnie Dread.
Donnie Dread. You go back to the States, and I guess you heard that Vaughn recorded a tune on the track. And I'm pretty, like, what was that like? Because what was that like? You're making beats at your place, right?
Yeah.
You leave a rhythm with somebody, and you hear an artist that you rate has recorded on your tune. So what was that experience like?
Yeah, no, it felt amazing, and it was great. It was a great song. You know, when I heard it, I was blown away because it's such an intricate song. The song is called "If I Betray." It's on Nemo Zion Rasta. It's got a hip hop beat, and I played the rest on an acoustic guitar. Even played the bass line on the acoustic guitar, and Donnie Dread has a verse rapping on it. And me and Donnie built the rhythm in his house, very humble home studio in Richmond, St. Croix. And I think it was about a week after I left, Vaughn came to the studio, heard it, loved it, voiced it, and told me he wanted to do more. And
did that give you that validation?
Yeah, well, I didn't know what to make of it at first, you know. It's very new to me, and music, I came into music so untrained, and you talked about not having fear. I didn't have fear because I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know to fear that, you know. I took that on as a challenge. So, you know, working with Vaughn it opened up so much because it allowed me to have a stream of listeners for my music that I never would have had at that stage in my development as a producer. So we put out If I Betray onto the radio, and started working on the collection of songs that became Nemo Zion Rasta.
All right. And when did you have the idea to create I-Grade? Because it was released on I-Grade Records.
Yes. Yeah, man. I-Grade was created to release that album.
All right, strictly for that.
Yeah, man.
Business smart.
Kenyatta Itola and I. Kenyatta Itola is the bass player, co-producer who started I-Grade Records with me.
It's a light-skinned brethren?
Yeah, he's actually from Washington, D.C. And married a childhood friend of mine. And we ended up linking in New York City for years. He's who I would play with after school teaching. We would create beats in my apartment, and just for the love of it. No plan of ever becoming producers or releasing music. I didn't have any plan to even have a label. It's just we had a collection of songs and we needed them out, so we decided to start I-Grade.
All right. So VI has like it got the spirit down there fighting with the music, at least what I've been exposed to, right?
Yeah.
It seems like you guys have maintained the essence of Rastafari's message in music, and you've always held on to that core of the reggae sound. You didn't really deviate. Because I see in other regions, we know Jamaica already, they're doing all this fusion and all this other stuff, but you guys just stay to the core.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Man, you know, Vaughn used to speak on this, like there's no order, no rules saying that all VI reggae artists have to be conscious and singing positive, you know, thoughtful lyrics, but that's what happened. There was no order to say, well, this is what we're all gonna do. But somehow naturally, all the singers them coming out, even if they're not Rasta man or not Rasta woman. It's conscious, it's thoughtful, it's dealing with topics. Musically, I think in the VI, we love rakas, we love bass, we love good reggae music for years and years. And as the reggae music developed, that's the sound we like. That's the sound the artists like and the producers. You know, there's Sound Vision, Bamboo Station, of course, African Roots Lab. These are the different labels. Aya Ites, these are different production houses that were bubbling around the early 2000s, you know? But you gotta give credit to Midnite. When they came back home from DC around 99, Vaughn was working with everybody. And I was one of the producers he was working with. So a lot of different production houses started releasing albums, releasing music here and there. And it just became a movement, you know?
And developing your sound now, right? Because you mentioned in the Betray tune had a hip hop energy in there, right?
Yeah.
What were you listening to, or what producers were you studying that your craft and your skill set and your sound grew so much from that 2000 to that 2010, like a 10-year, like you made like a 40-year development and 10 years musically, sonically.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so like what were you listening to or who were you studying to really enhance what you were doing?
You know, I can't even say that there's anything I was listening to. I think I would also disagree a little bit with the premise in that I'm constantly developing and evolving. And the difference between my sound from now and 10 years ago is the same as it was from 10 years ago and 10 years before that. It's just a constant evolution. Um, I feel like when I first started sonically, there was a lot of limitations. We had an 8-track digital recorder that recorded Nemo Zion Rasta, Desiree's first album, Fire, and the album Asini. They were all done on an 8-track. This is before laptops, before computers were making music, and we're limited to those 8 layers of music, which affected the sound. That's why it has a raw, simple sound. Asini is one of my favorite albums because a lot of it is drum, bass, hard scratch, and Vaughn. And that's it. And you create so much tension and energy with that, with the right bass lines. The space in the music is what can create so much of the value, you know, the absence of certain things.
And I take it from what you're saying now. I guess it's just the repetition of being around the music and constantly creating,
Yeah,
and start figuring
yeah.
out stuff. That seems to be your
Honestly, I
course.
don't listen to a whole lot of music outside. I listen to the music we make
Yeah,
most more than anything. My family could tell you I'm always putting on what I made in the studio. But of course, I'm open. I'm influenced by everything I hear, everything I see, everything in nature, you know? You're influenced by all the sonics around you. And, you know, it's something that I think if you have a kind of a visionary mind, which as a producer you have to, because when you're producing, you have to hear it before it's there. And that's often what drives you is what you hear in your head. And, you know, you can create anything in this day and age. You know, this is a great time to make music.
And when did the other artists start coming in? 'Cause I know you with the big man, you with Vaughn, right?
Yeah.
So when did the other artists start to come in or be open to
Uh,
recording for you?
well, Vaughn brought Desiree to the studio, and that was the first other
Another
artist I
mystic
worked with.
figure I'm trying to get to. We got to link her up still.
Amazing voice, super powerful voice, beautiful songwriter, um, huge impact. As I travel the world right now, I realize more and more how much Desiree's music has spread, you know, and inspires people. So, yeah, man, we did the first album, Fire, right after Nemo Zion Rasta. But yeah, in St. Croix at that time, so many different artists are working. You know, I was working with almost all of them. I did 2 different compilations, one called Weep Not, and another called Joyful Noise. So had a chance to work with most of the artists coming out, but it was just a natural thing. It wasn't anything too preset or anything that had any formula or format to it. You know, just a kind of a movement bubbling up. You know.
So I'm pretty sure there are thousands of people who want to hear this conversation, right? You've had the amazing opportunity experience of working with who many argue is one of the greatest lyricists of all time, right? Um, the question I have is being in the studio with this Bridger for so long. A lot of people want what was his writing process like? Because there are all these rumors going around of what
Yeah.
goes on. I can tell you what I've heard.
Okay.
Luke Fire has told me that he saw this man record 10 songs in one day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, man.
He didn't tell me anything about no pen or nothing either. He just said the man was in there, he heard the rhythm, and he said he was sitting there looking like he don't know what's going on. And you know,
Yeah.
Luke Fire is a lyricist.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
What was this man's process for creating music?
Okay, Vaughn had so many different processes and ways of working throughout his years that there wasn't one way. But I have seen him do 8 songs in a day, so I know Lutan is telling the truth. And those songs were freestyle, fully improvised. He would hear the rhythm, step to the mic, and sing. Simple as that, bro.
Before you continue, it had to be one take because this man can't
No.
remember what he said already.
No, it wasn't one take, but it was fully off the top of the head. And not all the songs. I would say of the songs I recorded with Vaughn, maybe 20% were like that. Most were written. And his process would be this. He'd come to the studio, never would listen to the rhythm before the studio, not even on the way to the studio. He did not want to. He didn't want to hear the music that was in mind to record. He wanted to come to the studio empty. His thing was come as an empty cup and let the moment, the spirit, the message fill you up from there. And if you have too much preset plans, you can't be receptive. That was the idea. So he would listen to the rhythm and sit there and just write for 30, 40 minutes, maybe sometimes a little more, not singing along, not practicing, just writing. And he'd be ready, he'd step up, step to the mic, step into the booth, and go, you know? And he'd often record 3 or 4 background tracks, and his harmony tracks were always super unique, and he'd find in-between harmonies, not your normal like barbershop quartet harmonies. He finds some different harmonies that add so much tension. Again, that's the word I keep coming to because his music has a lot of tension, you know? And mystical process, man. He would never pre-write lyrics either. He wouldn't write them at home and bring them to the studio. So, yeah.
How did his process impact you as a producer?
Definitely impacted how I approach building rhythms and releasing music with a certain urgency and a certain no fear attitude, like you said, you know, because Vaughn released sometimes 4 or 5 albums a year. And if you're too picking about the sound here or I made a mistake there, you'll never have that kind of productivity. So I learned from him to, you know, kind of don't worry so much about getting everything perfect, you know? Like my brethren said the other day, finish is better than perfect, you know, sometimes. And sometimes the perfection is the imperfection, you know? And often if Vaughn is tracking and something that sounded like a mistake popped up, many times he did not want to fix it. No, leave it. And there's many examples on the recordings where you can hear something that sounds a little funny. You just leave it and keep going because that's what came out. It's a unique way to think about it, you know, and it's very different than some other artists and producers who sometimes I've done work where it's 7 takes of the same verse before you decide you get it right and you piece together portions. So everyone is different, but Vaughn is the most incomparable artist. I don't bother compare him to no other singer in any regard. So especially with the way he went about it, it's very unique.
In regards to being in there and seeing this, right, and seeing this up front, were you ever thrown off by it? Because listening to him is like listening to like an economics class, a theological class, a philosophy class, a spiritual class, a mental health session,
Yeah,
therapy
man.
session.
Yes,
You know,
full
so
spectrum.
uh, were you ever in the studio and this man do a lyric? He just looking like, how this man come up with this, and it kind of
Well, I had
flow and
enough
rhyme,
questions. I never wanted anything to be on these recordings that I didn't know what he meant. So I was constantly asking him, what does this mean? What do you mean by that? What'd you say there? And it was funny because I remember when Google came along, it was, you know, we started recording 2001 before that. But in the late 2000s, when we had Google on your phone, he'd be like, pull it up on your phone. Let me show you this. And we just pull it up and it will see, he'll tell us the word in the Bible to search for. The man had a knowledge of the Bible that was unbelievable. Vaughn's Bible, he had several, but his personal Bible that he took on tour was annotated, highlighted, different color stickies in each sections, different highlights for different ways he wanted to organize his recall. He always read with a highlighter, you know, which shows you he wasn't reading for fun. He was reading as a form of songwriting, as research for his songs. And
did he ever tell you like because you have to be a very knowledgeable person. Like I know you can listen to it, but actually listen and understand. You have to be a very knowledgeable person to really crack what's going on. Did he ever explain like why he created music on such a high level? Did he ever explain that?
well, he said a few things. He's like, why aim low? You're underestimating the intellectual potential of the youths who are listening to this music. You know, you're like dumbing it down for them thinking they can't reach. That was one point he made. Another point he made about the information overload that he kind of approach that he takes to the song. No, he like floods you with information in a song. And he's like, how many channels do you have? How many websites do you have? What, your brain can't handle this? Like, this is where we're at in time right now, in the spectrum of humanity. This is the information age. That urgency to share the information made it so that sometimes he didn't even want to sing choruses, brother. It would be verse through the whole song.
He was ahead of his time because I was just telling him when we were driving. That's what rappers doing now. They on a chorus again.
For real.
They just there straight.
No, but it wasn't easy either because you need choruses. Trust me. So it's a balance with that. And he trusted I, the Sinai Kings and all the producers he worked with, I'm sure, to craft the songs and massage them and get them to the point where that hook part is there.
And
You know
how
what I mean?
did you as a producer now, right? The way he presents music, how did you make sure it was like melodious? Because some of them were like, it's not necessarily don't have that melody to it.
Yeah.
The
No,
lyrics are there, but the music part is like very rough. You have to be a hardcore fan to take it in. So how did you work on him
right.
to kind of? I know he does it sometimes, but not to always do that. What was that?
No, Vaughn, there was no way. It was not, he's not like another artist where you kind of want to nudge him and send him a direction. No,
just
man,
know what
Vaughn
they
is a
doing.
one-away man. He knows exactly what he wants to do in the moment. And he's so tapped in. He's so tapped in as a vessel and as not just a vessel, but as a spark, as something that's receiving and sending at the same time, that he doesn't need much as far as direction. So I'd never even bothered approached it like that. Or let me try to get this or that. No, you just accept it and as it came is how it was gonna be. It's perfection and its imperfections. Beautiful.
Right. And I want to talk about one of my favorite albums, which I believe is one of the greatest reggae albums of all time. Hope the people listen don't crucify me for it. I know they get real serious about this Regin's album, but Beauty for Ashes, right?
Yeah.
Released in 2014.
Yes, sir.
I remember I had a lot of conversations because the Grammy that year was very terrible, by the way. And
Who was it that
it
year?
was I pulled it up. It was Jack Cure, the Cure, the Barrington Levy acoustic album, Luciano Zion Awake, and Morgan Heritage Strictly Roots.
And Morgan won it, right?
I think that's the year that they won it. Yeah.
I remember I submitted Beauty for Ashes and I submitted The Sound by Pressure, which came out the same year, which is also in my top 3 of albums I produced, Pressure, Busspipe, The Sound. I submitted both of those albums. I was a Grammy voter and nothing came of it. So that made me very disillusioned for the next few years, I said.
Yeah, you can't take that. You know how to go. But well,
About the Grammys, not about music.
yeah,
Trust me.
and give thanks for really securing your spot in history because anyone that knows music knows this is definitely one of the greatest albums of all time.
Give thanks.
Was this a compilation of singles or this was made specific? Because it sounds totally different from the other stuff up to that time. This was made for an album, right?
It's a cohesive album. Of course, Vaughn and I have been working, as you know, since 2001. I think there was maybe 7 or 8 albums over that decade. There was a time period where we weren't working as much together in the late 2000s into 2010, 11. I'd done singles with him here and there, but we hadn't done any albums in about 3 years until my brethren Andrew Basie came from Kingston, Jamaica to St. Croix to record Vaughn. And that King's Bell album kind of opened up the second half of my chapter in working with Vaughn.
So what was the reason for the break from that time?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, I know, but it's nothing that is worth even,
It's a little vibe thing for a little bit or something.
yeah, just some vibes, Small Island have these things a lot, And it's something that Vaughn and I always, through whatever vibes, we maintain a respect, fully. Early out, I realized what Vaughn's mission was. And when you see that somebody is doing something that will last, and I know this, for thousands of years, not just a few years from now, thousands of years, you have to humble yourself to that mission, you know what I mean? To know that this is not just for this time. And understanding that early out, always kept care between relations. Vaughn sings about that, keep good relations. It requires care, you know, because it's very easy to derail a relationship. So thankfully we kept it on track, and you know, King's Bell was kind of like the first album we did in many years together in the
Classic
studio.
album, same way.
Wow, great
Torpedo,
album.
Sedan,
Torpedo, Monk Sinai, Black
Big
Mamba.
But the King's Bell double, I know you released something. I think it was under the Akae Beka, but the the Earth is the Lord Fire dub, massive, yeah. And King's Bell dub, yeah, crazy.
With the melodica.
Yeah, crazy.
Nice.
And the little bell, yeah. Let's go back to the creation of Beauty for
Beauty for Ashes, yeah, man. So that was after King's Bell, which was co-produced. I co-produced it, but it was Andrew Basie's rhythms from Jamaica. Vaughn and I started working on our songs that were produced by our production team, the Zionite Kings. And Moon and Ja David and I were in a very prolific period of creating rhythms, mostly in South Florida. What we would do is our drummer who we work with, his name is Junior also, Junior Richards, he's based in South Florida. So we would find the best studio we could with the best SSL, Neve board, big boards, quality microphones to track the drum, bass, and rhythm. And we'd crank out 8 or 10 rhythms a day and share them out to the 3 different houses of producers. And so we had a bag of rhythms that were just really inspiring. And Beauty for Ashes was created from this set of music. So it's all the same cast of musicians. That's why it's a cohesive sound. It's not like you have 5 different drummers. Yeah, one set of musicians. Yeah, man. One set of musicians and a kind of simpler approach. What I love about Beauty for Ashes is that it's not overproduced. You know, sometimes I get a little carried away with guitars and synthesizers and horns. Man, I love lush cinematic sounds, and to me that kind of 3D sound is what, especially in dub, what I love the most. But for Beauty for Ashes, it was more stripped down. It felt more like the early albums, like Asini, where it's just drum, bass, rhythm, and a few key melody instruments. But to me, Vaughn's songwriting on that album is what makes it so special.
Wow, bro.
Really and truly, amazing songs. You know, Same Boat We, Same Aya One. You know, it's kind of like a theme here that Vaughn is really pushing for the last few years of his life, really was this common thread theme, you know?
Because in regards to the format of the album, right? I take it a lot of effort was put into that. Is there a reason like you started out with a reminder, like the way that beat dropped fire? It just seemed like on some like Selassie coming out.
Hey.
Like, just like so.
You mean the sequence of songs on an album? That's a huge part of putting together a great album. That's something that we as producers, we always debate over. And for me, there's no formula, but the first song has to be impact.
And you really captured this one. Like it really.
Yeah, man. It comes in like a herd of elephants, or like you said, like regal sound.
The horns and all that. Yeah, vibe to it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, then. So there, and I'll say too, man. Like not just during this time, but just in general for like the last couple of decades. No disrespect to no artist or producer, but albums aren't necessarily albums. They're a compilation of singles, right? Nothing don't miss on this, man. Because I'm gonna run through the list right now. You got a reminder. Wing Jai Rise, massive tune with Loot and Fire. Same Boat We did the video for. Beauty for Ashes, massive tune. Betterment Mouth, massive tune. Same I One with Pressure. Holy Mountain. Generation Again, massive tune.
Gosh.
All's On You, massive tune. Weather the Storm, Ross Back. Tried and Tested. Hold On. And a Healing Fire, next one too. Whoa. And the Healing kind of got that a reminder energy in a sense, if you listen to it. So it kind of like you start with that.
The beeline.
And Hold On's a very powerful tune that touches a lot of people's spirit too, you know? Hold On, powerful message.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Give you that strength.
Yeah, man.
Rough times.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so.
And A Healing too. A Healing is a song, the first verse. It's hard to say when Vaughn has what the song is about, because it's about 59 different things in one song, but the intro part of A Healing is about addiction. You know, he's talking about.
That's when he said, "Don't say a word, Fire. I want to show you my
tell me.
When he talk about the study showing how they'll lead to addiction if the money, I don't know how to say it, but it's saying in that realm.
Like an addict, if you give an addict the choice between the substance or the money, At first, he'll take the substance. Yeah, I want the substance. But then if you increase the money
Once he balanced out
past a certain point, he'll take the money.
yeah.
And Vaughn took that to mean, there's an economic component to dependency, is I think what he said in the line. Love Vaughn's songs because you can't imagine in reggae music you get to talk about, a medical journal publication.
I'm saying if I take what I just said, the joint take you to every department in the university,
man. Yeah, man, give thanks.
All right, so we have Beauty for Ashes, right? What was the reason for the name change?
What do you mean? Akae Beka?
Yeah, what was the reason for the name change and your understanding of it?
Vaughn in late 2014, or maybe it was early 2015, decided to part ways working with his brother. And in doing so, he could no longer release music as Midnite because Midnite is Vaughn and Ron. That's their thing from inception from 1989. So by rights, if Vaughn continues without his brother, I think, and this is not what Vaughn told me, but this is me observing the situation, he needed a name for his own, under his own domain, under his own control, you understand? But the reason for the name is within the name. And if you look at Akae Beka, the words, Akae and Beka, they describe an oath in the book of Enoch. And the numbers align to Vaughn's birthday, actually. I think it's chapter 8, verse 69 in the book of Enoch. Vaughn is born August 1969. It speaks about the oath of the Akae and the Beka and the oath that underpins the earth. And the angels revealed the oath, or God revealed the oath to the archangel Michael, who Vaughn also has a kinship with in terms of his approach. In the biblical story, Michael is who slews the forked tongue. The archangel Michael is who stops the forked, deceptive tongue from humanity, the dragon, And given to Michael, this oath is about revealing truths to humanity, the secrets that had been hidden. And that's the perfect name for what Vaughn deals with his entire life. So the man find the right name. I know it was a very kind of awkward transition for the public. Akae Beka, what is that? But once they really look into it and see, you see the power of it's beyond even, it's not like a name for entertainment. Like I said, it's an oath,
All right, 2 questions now. His brother didn't play on the productions, right? He just played live with your productions? Or
I-Grade? He played on 1 or 2 songs early out on Nemo Zion, but after that, no, he was not a part of the production on I-Grade releases.
All right.
He released it under his own label.
What's up with performing at midnight? What was that about, man?
What do you mean?
Him performing, the shows seem to all be at like midnight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe
the ones I saw in New York,
Yeah, I guess promoters like that, it's
just
catchy. Midnight,
Midnight performance.
Time is counted from midnight, not from daylight.
All right. Now, on a spiritual vibe, right, and on a life vibe, what are some of the things you learn from being around him spiritually?
Man, Vaughn is so intense. I think spiritually, one of the biggest things I learned from Vaughn is giving time to people who need you. And for him, it might sound a little strange as far as what we're talking about needing you. For him, these are people who needed Vaughn's counsel, who needed Vaughn's time, who needed his words. And I'm not just talking about at shows. Vaughn's front porch was sometimes a stream of people coming through to sit down and talk and reason, and whether it's to learn or to get some advice or to, and that kind of givingness in his spirit and understanding. And he would prioritize that kind of work just as much as the stage work. Vaughn's reasonings after a show were just as important to him as the show. And he would take the time after a 4-hour show to spend 2 more hours with the people. So that kind of spiritual giving really influenced me to understand, that the give and take of humanity is super important, You
said something earlier, when he approached the studio, he wanted to be an empty vessel.
Yeah.
So he can receive everything.
Yeah.
I think that's very important too, because we need to kind of stay open to receive from the universe. So it's funny. It's a universal law, but it's I found it interesting that he used that with creating music, making sure he was open to receive.
Yes,
You know?
yes, in music and in life. And it would made it difficult for 2 or 3 years. I was managing Vaughn's business affairs with Akae Beka and working as front of house. And Vaughn didn't like plans, you know. It was difficult to make plans. But of course, you schedule tours and you make plans. But the just spare life philosophy, the idea that we'll see, you know, we'll see what happens, is often how spiritually he would approach things. Not many expectations for himself or others, and it's a great way to live, you know, if you can manage
Wild,
the discipline
right?
for it.
Scott,
Yeah.
say that again. I want to go again. Go again. Talk about the expectations.
Yeah, not having too many expectations for yourself or others allows you to live in a more zen way. You know, you're present in the moment. You know, Vaughn has a song with "There's Only Now." You know, present and past, they're both illusions. They're both not reality. The only reality is the eternal now. It's just the same now that it was eons ago. We're in the same now. So, yeah, understanding that allows you to have a Zen approach, and I witnessed that in Vaughn's life as far as the power of not planning, not pre-planning too much, but still having a very resolute direction and very principled approach and prolific, non-stop work ethic. You know, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Non-stop work and releasing, but kind of wait and see. We're not sure what's going to happen with plans. You know, but that polarity works, you know?
And also I found interesting is that he seemed very strategic on the people he did songs with. And also within this is fan talk now.
Yeah.
I'm letting you in on fan talk.
Okay.
People really rate him because he never like tried to do anything weird to like deviate from what he did and cross over. Like he just did what he did, fire. You know what I'm saying? And just stayed in his lane.
Yeah, man.
And like I think it's an example that a lot of artists should use, because what I'm noticing now is everyone's trying to. I don't know if crossover is a proper word because I don't know what's going on now, but everyone's trying to do everything that they don't do, and it's not working.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I feel
it's not working because the proof is in the pudding. But this man really stayed true to what he did, and he just did it.
Yeah, man.
And that's very rare within the music industry.
No, it's true. No, and early out, he had offers to cross over. You know, he used to talk about, yes, man. Yes, man. And the man writes amazing choruses and hooks. If you're looking for that hooky kind of thing, popular thing, you know, listen to the first album, Unpolished, full of major hooks, unforgettable hooks. So soon after the first album, he told us that Bad Boy wanted to sign him, the label.
Stop! Walk out the room.
Yeah, man. Bad Boy sent somebody to St. Croix to try sign.
So hold on, Bad Boy knew about this man back then?
Man, yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how, but Vaughn was performing in Washington, D.C.
DC heavy though.
4 nights a week, you know, 4 or 5 nights a week, every night. They had a legendary situation, very committed following. So I'm sure many of people saw Vaughn's light and Vaughn's powers.
So were they was the deal for him to perform or right?
Oh, I don't know the details on it. I'm just more sharing an anecdote of what he used to tell us. Yeah.
I never knew. So another thing I want to talk about, Vaughn, is obviously and for you to clear the air, because there's a lot of rumors and speculation about his passing. If you're open to sharing, what exactly occurred during his passing, or what was the cause of his transition?
Well, you know, Vaughn is a very private man with his family and with his health. So I think at the time of his illness, there was no announcements that he was even ill.
Did you notice he was ill or no?
Well, yes, I knew he was ill because in 2015 he went into the hospital, you know, right before the transition from Midnite to Akae Beka. Vaughn had a health emergency and was hospitalized for a period of time.
He looked a little sicker after the change in his beard. The beard, like, he got a lot of gray hair real quick.
Right,
like,
right.
So what continued?
Yeah, no, in 2015, early 2015, I believe, He was in the hospital. The family, Vaughn never released specifics, so I don't feel comfortable releasing specifics about what it was or what it is. But he had a serious health issue that continued and unfortunately deteriorated over the next 5 years.
And I always ask with artists, man, because a lot of artists have health issues, and I have a theory. I just think that artist life is so rough, right? And I just think that they run into a bind financially as well as personally, because if this is your livelihood to be on the road, but the road is killing you, you're kind of in a weird spot. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, a lot of artists, people don't know how sick artists are. A lot of artists are sick, and they're struggling.
Yeah.
But like, sometimes you just gotta keep
Yeah,
back.
no, I was touring with Akae Beka, and I was on a 7-week tour with Vaughn when he's still dealing with symptoms and issues, and his his necessity to keep going was not just financial. It's a urgency of his work, and he had an urgency of recording too in the 5 years between 2015 and when he transitioned. At least 30 albums, which is amazing. Incredible output in a difficult time period in his life, still touring throughout. So, yeah, it was very difficult situation for everyone around Vaughn, of course, his health situation, but the man held it with dignity and pride throughout.
How was that experience for you? I know it's something you deal with. It's nothing that ever fully, but how did you, or how have you been dealing with that loss?
Yeah, I lost my father. My father transitioned this past year.
Sorry to hear.
No, and it's fine. He had a great life, and what really helps the process is the gratitude for what someone did in their life on Earth. And with Vaughn, it's levels. It's so much that he did on Earth, and so much he did for humanity, that when you focus on that, it helps. But you have to deal with the pain too. You have to deal with the reality that you can't call a friend anymore. Enough times I wish I could just call Vaughn and reason, especially with what's happening in the Earth, in the news right now. So much time, the way he distilled current events was so helpful to me, and the way he understood humanity, and you hear this in his songs where he speaks about human relations and interactions, and in reasonings and in conversation, Vaughn would, without being a great listener per se, he was able to interact with your issues and your lives to give you clarity with some simple words and principles. So Vaughn was a real loving person. He had a hard edge with his reputation, but lot of love. And anybody who interacted with Vaughn knows that. Yeah, man.
Uh, I'm gonna ask you a question, right? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I can't listen to other music after I listen to Vaughn for like hours. No, serious thing. Only thing I can listen to is soul music because I'm not necessarily listening to the lyrics. All right, let me reword this. I can't really listen to lyrical music after listening to Vaughn because it's so dumbed down. I need a break.
Yeah.
I can listen to soul music though
Yeah.
because of the instruments, but not necessarily lyrics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
As a producer now, right? It sounded weird when I said you got the answer, but like, do you ever work with people like this thing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know you're doing it, but it's like you've been exposed to such a stimulation, right?
Yeah.
Is some of this stuff just like boring to you, bro? It's just so like
Brother.
low tier and just blah. Because I can speak, and no disrespect to artists. I know you're artists. I love y'all. You know it is. But I tell people that know people that know me privately know this.
Yeah.
Because I say it all the time. I cannot listen to anything after I listen to Vaughn.
Yeah.
It sounds like kiddie music almost. Because it don't stimulate this. It's just so basic. It's just rhyming.
I feel you. And I agree. But hear what? Like I said earlier, Vaughn is incomparable. Yeah. So I learned not to compare him.
You gotta approach it.
Yeah, man. Even when I listen to music, okay, if it's not Vaughn, I know the expectation level for the intellectual stimulation is different. And I accept it for what it is,
And it's not the expectation. It's just like I understand I listen to somebody. I just can't listen to it. I need a You know what I'm saying? Because it don't
I
hit
get
the
you.
same. When I take a break and listen to it, I have a vibe. The only person I see that kind of close after Ron is like Summer Jam and stuff, some, and like early Sizzler.
Okay. Yeah.
But even that need a little break.
Yes,
When I get into the real deal fire, I need a break to listen to something else to give it.
No, I understand.
It's so, as you said, it's overload. You really got to be on top to really flow with this and process everything.
Yeah, man.
Hear what this man is saying.
And it takes multiple listens. This is why, Vaughn's supporters around the world use his music like life, like it's part of their daily routines. It's part of how they farm and raise their children and go to sleep. And each time you listen, you learn something else. That's what I keep hearing from people, and it happens to me too. You get a different interpretation, a different angle, different understanding to where it can kind of apply to any situation now.
But as you grow in life, I think this is like what happens. And I think people who read the Bible talk about this. But this is my experience. As you grow in life, or you grow generally, you get a deeper understanding of lyrics. It may have a different meaning. Same lyrics. And I think his music has that energy where it's like, especially not the historical stuff, but stuff about spirituality and human relationships. When you reach that point till you understand it, you say, all right, now I see what fire is talking about.
That's right.
So you need to grow to a certain aspect to fully understand what this man was saying.
Exactly. So it's an evolving relationship between you and the music. As you grow, you understand the music differently. Genius, the way Vaughn planted this web of ideas and words. It's really unheard of in humanity. Real talk.
You're a man I always rated, right? But I get a deeper understanding now of this man's brilliance especially with the swimming. I played Division I basketball, right? So I understand that grind and that commitment to working towards something.
Yeah.
And I understand how you've been able to utilize that for every aspect, and obviously with music, right? Now, in regards to the music, sonically, right? What's up with this live dub thing? Like, when did this start?
2012, I started doing that. And it started by me watching a YouTube video by Ras Kiva, Kiva. Look him up. He's my initial teacher in dub music. I saw him using a very simple MIDI controller because I'm a producer who never had the big board and a huge studio. My early albums, most of the albums on I-Grade Records were recorded anywhere, in a bedroom, in an abandoned house, in a studio sometimes, makeshift. So I never had a big analog board. I never had outboard gear. Live dubbing, was never something that I could do until I saw this video of a man using a simple, $200 MIDI controller and Ableton, the music program Ableton, to dub. And in the video, he explains how he does it, and he uses his buttons to turn on sends to activate different effects. So a real innovative way to do it using simple, accessible technology. So when I got into that, I took a few lessons from Kiva and really went straight into performing with singers. And this is my intro to dub. And I point this out because I didn't come into dub like in the studio making dub mixes to release. We went to the fish market, we strung up sound, brought the mic, and man was chanting while I'm doing a custom mix. And you can see this on YouTube, dubbing the fish market.
I know you mentioned Oswald early on. Do you think your listening to Oswald influenced your love of dub?
Yeah, man, of course.
They basically did live dubs when they're recording also.
Well, yeah, back in those days, okay, on stage, yeah, they had a very dubby performance on stage, for sure. But the art of live dubbing on stage, the first person to do it, to my knowledge, is Mad Professor.
Scientist.
No.
Mad Professor.
As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong here, but the first one to really bring the mixing board to the stage as a presentation for the audience to tech in this art form of live mixing is Mad Professor. Right. He started doing this in the 80s, I think, many, many years ago, and he's been touring the world. And he shows up, the show provides him a mixing board, he brings his technology, and he does the live dub right there on the spot using analog equipment. I use the MIDI mapped equipment. This is MIDI controllers, so it's a different technology, but same concept.
All right, and I see your layout fire. Sometimes you got 20 different pieces of equipment up there. So when did you start adding on all these different
Yeah, man.
pieces of equipment, and what are they for those
All
unaware?
right. Well, these are all different MIDI controllers. All the knobs you see me turning, each one controls a different parameter, a different effect, a different send level. And the thing is with this MIDI controller technology, anything can be anything. Whatever knob I'm turning, what it's doing depends on what I mapped it to. The company didn't tell me what this knob was going to do. It's a blank slate,
Modify it
and
yourself.
I map it out to what I want to do. And each different MIDI controller is like a piece of a matrix. That's why I call my setup the dub matrix. And it's got about 6 different components, and it all feeds into the computer. And it's a, it's a mixing board. It's a virtual mixing board.
And each live, I take it, each live performance will have a different mix because you just on
Yeah,
a
man.
vibe at the time. So that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beauty
no,
of
that's the beauty of live dub. Every mix has never been heard before. Every mix is fully in the now, fully in the moment. It's like jazz, it's like freestyle, like Vaughn in the studio. No preset plan, just whatever the moment brings you. And sometimes it's beautiful, amazing stuff. Sometimes it's one bag of mistakes and delays ringing out too long, but it's dub. It's dub is not really bound by other rules in music as far as, oh, you made a mistake, or that's not supposed to be like that, or that's too loud. None of that applies.
and the beauty of it too, you got the craziest rhythms already to work with.
You know what I mean?
You
Hey,
don't
the
have to go,
source.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah, you know?
I give thanks for the source,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
my co-producers and musicians, because that's the sweetness, that's the secret to the presentation I bring. It's a very 3D kind of, um, high def root sound.
So fire from you burn a spliff and go up there, you on the heights then, right?
Yeah, man.
I'm telling you. All
What
right.
you mean, man?
All right, all right. Do you are there? I know you did King's Bell, like the whole album. Are
With
there?
Andrew Basie, yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other albums you plan on releasing a dub version for?
Oh yeah, man. All of them. Yeah, I've already cut a lot of the dubs for Beauty for Ashes, for Ride True.
Yeah.
Haven't released them yet.
Ride Through got some hard rhythms too, by the way. Fire.
Ride True is one of my favorite albums.
Like with
Love
regards
that
to
album.
rhythms,
Yeah.
then Crazy Tated.
Give thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate
serious
that.
thing, yeah.
But right now we're releasing about 40 different 7-inches on Before Zero Records, and they have dubs on the B side.
Yeah.
There's lyrics on the package as well. So.
All right.
Yeah, man.
What are your views about? I'm a very hard critic of reggae music. That's why probably most people don't want to come near me again, unless they feel the same way. But like, what are your views about the future of reggae music collectively?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I'm touring right now a lot, and I get to hear all the different talk from the fans, from the promoters, from the artists, and there's a lot of fear about the state of reggae, a lot of anxiety from the promoters' point of view, from the reggae festival's point of view. The pie is a lot smaller, the turnouts are smaller, but creatively, I think reggae is in a great place. Right now, there's so much good music coming out, and it's like, peaks and troughs in every society. And right now in Jamaica, with, the reggae revival had a peak, 10 years ago? There's another surge coming. There's a new crop of singers in their early 20s who have a lot of introspection, a lot of power. I love, Jalil, Isa, a lot of great.
Time singer, fire. We had him on the radio show. You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Samary and Mortimer we already know their powers. Of course, Chronix, of course, Protege, Janine, Jesse, Kabaka, and they're all very productive right now. Like, these are artists in their prime. Lutan Fire to me keeps getting better. Every album I hear from
Machine
Lutan.
too, they should respect the fire same way,
Yeah, man.
Lyrical machine,
I've never seen an artist improve every album of their career and get better and better. Amazing. So I love what's coming out in reggae. And I think reggae has had this kind of identity crisis thing sonically, because there's the trap influence and the hip hop influence and a lot of debate about that, which I don't too think is a problem at all, because reggae music, all music will always evolve. And if you look at reggae music in Jamaica, how it evolved intertwined with hip hop. You can remember it's Jamaicans who went to the Bronx, right? Isn't Africa Bambaataa and Kool Herc, aren't they Jamaican heritage? The man that created hip hop from the inspiration of the Jamaican sound system culture, you know? So that kind of interplay, hip hop influences reggae, reggae influences hip hop. You know, it's like a double helix.
Well, what I've observed is I was recently in Jamaica and I was supposed to go to a concert. I wanted to see Burning Spear live, but that got canceled. There have been many other festivals that got canceled. I think two things are the biggest things. One is that the artists have deviated from the sound that made them famous. Now, I understand music. You can create a song that deviates. All your music can't deviate. You get what I'm saying? Because you need to produce what your core audience knows you for. I think that's where they messed up. Yeah. Another thing I noticed is that they need to make... I understand lifestyles have changed, so therefore the content has changed, but they need to ground themselves and get back to a place where they can create what they created. Not necessarily created earlier, but has that essence of what they created. Like their being is different, and they can't put out that sound that they put out to capture the world.
Right.
And I think that's what's taking place.
People who lose the source a little bit.
All right. So they need to ground themselves and get back to basics, whether it's how they're living, who they're around, the space that they're in. Yeah. And I think that's what's hurt them the most, because I've seen this. When they get the little success, everything changed. People drinking now, people partying in certain places, people around certain elements they were. So you can't give out that same sound fire because everything's different. And I think that's the source of the problem with reggae artists.
Right.
Their life has changed.
Right.
And they're lyric because they're still looking for this person to give out a certain sound, but they no longer even live that life.
Right, right. No,
and I think that's what's catching them. And they're being exposed because it's like that 30 years or that 20 years that you lived, all that sufferation that came out, it's so gone from that now. And now it's just like, even the content, you talking about some different things that can't nobody relate to.
Right, right.
And I think a true artist always understands that they have to find a way. It's like an athlete in a sense, like Rocky, when he got hyped and he had to link up with the brethren again to kind of get back on the beach.
Yeah, man.
Fighting and to get back on the beach.
No, we in Philly.
You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. No, and I saw, that's why, again, Vaughn used to research his songs. His reasonings and his readings were preparing him for songs, you know, and you can't just live your life of hotel rooms and touring and expect the inspiration and the words to come to you. It's got to come from somewhere. And if you're not interacting with the right people, if you're not reading the right things, your brain's not going to have the input to put back out. So I think you're right, brother.
I think that's a big issue, you know, and also we just need better songs, you know.
That's it.
I'm a reggae fanatic, and I just remember when I was in college, that 2002 to 2006 fire. I remember I came home to Irie Jam Rock was out.
Yeah.
Just one of those days.
Yeah.
I think She's Royal was just coming, like it was hits on the road fighting when people was in the car. Love and Affection was running the place.
Yeah. We haven't had any household reggae hits in a good 4 years, you know, except YG.
And I wanted to say something too, man. That's the next thing with the stage show. I'm a stage show, man. So when I used to go to Rebel Salute, right? Not at Oakshie, when it's in Port Kaiser, you can easily wait till 7 in the morning because I want to hear this man hit song.
Yeah.
I ain't waiting till 7 in the morning for some oldies to cut. It just don't have that energy.
Yeah,
and I think the artists need to figure it out, man. It's like it needs to be a level of accountability.
Yeah.
Everybody's blaming all this stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta make better music.
You gotta make better songs.
Make better songs. Listen, I saw this thing was beautiful. I saw Damian Marley with Stephen Marley, right? And I think Damian Marley does so much better with his brother Stephen Marley on stage. I don't know if he give him an energy or something fire. Like I've seen Damian Marley a lot, but nonetheless, the show that these people put on fire is the blueprint people need to use. They mix strictly their hits and the father's hits.
Okay.
But it's like the musical presentation with the band, with the engineer, but they have songs. And they play out the songs. It's not no pull up. It's not no yelling in the mic fire. It's not no, they play out the songs with top musicians, and that's what people want to see.
People are craving realness, brother.
That's
authenticity. Yeah, man. But you're right, we need better songs. I don't know though if the songs are out there and they're not being heard, because remember, we're in this information overload age too, where everything's there and sometimes we're not catching it. So it's harder to get hits right now. But you need those songs that captivate everybody.
I'll say this, man. Like there is good music being released. You have, as you said, you have Jalil, you have Jabari, you have Kenny Smith. You have so many young artists, but it's not that caliber. No disrespect to them, but it's not that caliber. It's good songs in this time, but it's not that caliber of songs. It's not Chronix, who sing Chalice. It's not that level. It's not
Black
there.
Woman and Child.
Yeah, and we need that energy. More and More was in that space a little bit because he had a couple of tunes, but it's not in that space. Like who knows Protege Chronix? That level, that's what needs to be created. And I promise you, if they make a couple songs like that, Fire, they could go on the road and sell out a big place.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't perform a song from 15, 20 years ago, Fire.
Right.
You just can't.
Well, you can and you do. I mean, I saw Sizzla perform like 80 hits the other day.
You know, it's kind of to really bring out that, because I think that's why the numbers are dropping. And another red flag too I noticed is that speaking of Sizzla, I noticed with the hip hop things, man, is just like they have different, I don't know, I don't say they initially passed the torch, but there's been a generation to take over for the shows. Put it like this, LL Cool J not closing out Coachella.
No.
Or, you know what I'm saying? They have young artists for that.
Yeah.
Sizzla's still closing out some fest.
Yeah, we have a generation.
You know, so we need that younger energy to just come in. Chronix was kind of taking that. Chronix cooled off for whatever reason. But we
need him.
Yeah, you know, we need that young person to take that space, because Barry shouldn't be closing shows at this. He could close an oldie show, but he shouldn't really close the show for the island.
Correct.
You should have some young people doing that. Yeah, so that's the vibe. But Fire, we give thanks for the reasons still. I'm glad we finally linked up, and I know for a fact that those listening are very pleased to hear more about you. Also, your stories with Vaughn, because you know there's a whole group that's waiting for that, so they give thanks.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, definitely keep me in the loop when the new stuff comes out, so we play on the show. You know.
Yes, sir. Big up. I Never Knew TV. Love what you guys do. Man.
Serious thing.
Keep on doing it.
All right, cool, man.
Respect.